and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the What Now Show. I am your host, Suryansh Basumalik, and I am joined by Lawrence Lui, a Hong Kong-born Kiwi living out of Auckland, New Zealand. He's training out of City Kickboxing. We've had a bunch of fighters from there. We've had Jenna Fabian, we've had Cameron Ralston, and we're here with Lawrence. Now,
Oh,
Currently
having me.
uh, Lawrence is currently an amateur fighter. He has a professional record of 5 wins, 2 losses, and he's looking to turn pro very soon. Lawrence, it's a pleasure to have you. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, just sparring this morning. Yeah, pretty just the usual after sparring. Just kind of tired and woken from a nap. Got the energy drink going. So
Well,
yeah.
let's get started with that really. So, of course, lockdown's been slowing everyone down. It's been, messing with everyone's process of training, whether it be working and so on and so forth. So, how has adapting to lockdown been for you? Because I hear that over the lockdown, there was, I think Eugene and Doug set up their own camps in separate places over the lockdowns. So were you going for any of these camps? So how was training like during this whole process?
So we've had two lockdowns in Auckland. The first lockdown we didn't actually manage to get anyone in the gym. Um, so that was way back in like April. So and then after that finished, we just started go. The gym opened up again for groups of 10, and I was part of that. Like the full contact group of 10. That was going on until we moved out of level 2, and then that went on. We were in level 1 for a few months, and then we went into lockdown again, and that's when they started. That's when the gym um, closed for everyone except this group of 10 people. I wasn't part of that group because I didn't have a fight overseas. So most of the people who were fighting who had fights overseas, they were a part of the training group at the gym. Doug, he had a bunch of boxes at his place in Rangawhai, a bit further up north from Auckland. Wasn't really part of that either. So don't know if I should be saying this, but I was training with some other people who potentially was fighting in the same time as me at Shuriken in October.
Right.
Um, so we were doing that for a few weeks. Yeah.
Right. So of course, lockdown's given a lot of people in the fighting business, develop as fighters, develop their skills, develop different parts of their games. So when it came to developing yourself as a fighter, developing your skills and arts, what did you focus on the most, and what do you think you've been working on the hardest to improve?
Um, for, I guess mainly in the second lockdown, I was more working on stuff a bit more specific to what thought I would see in the fight, like trying to counter high kicks or um, working on my head movement. And what was the other part of your question? Sorry.
What have you been working on the most in developing yourself as a fighter?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like what
Right.
we what we did in the lockdown. It wasn't much like I guess development. It was more just refining what I already had.
Right.
Uh, just as I got closer to the fight. As usually when you get closer to a fight, you don't really I guess pick up new skills. You just um, sharpen the things you already have.
Right.
Developing new skills, that's more to do with outside of camp. That's when you don't have a fight coming up. That's where you work on the stuff you need to work on, I guess. So yeah, yeah.
So, seeing from talking to you earlier, I could tell that you have a very you have a strong kickboxing background.
Yep.
However, when it comes to MMA, there's multiple elements to it, even the one where you're grappling, jiu-jitsu, and so on and so forth. So, noting this, what do you think defines you best as a fighter? Are you a kickboxer? Are you a wrestler? Or is wrestling something you're working on? What do you see this whole dynamic as?
Um, I guess mainly my fights I like to strike. Um, Lately in training, I've been enjoying the grappling aspect of it a lot more. I guess that comes in waves. I guess how would I explain it? Sorry. So there'll be like a bit of period. There'll be like a period of time where you get better at, you enjoy grappling for a little bit, and then another period of time where you enjoy striking. I'm just in that period of time where I really like grappling. So in my next fight, I would like to show off some of the stuff I've been working on the ground. But if I'd mainly as a fighter, I'd probably say more of a striker.
Right. So, develop everyone has something that, drew them to the sport of mixed martial arts and so on and so forth. So what interests you most about MMA in the first place? Why do you think of it as the ideal path to go through full time? What's attracting to you in the first place?
Um, so I've done some of when I was a teenager, I did some kickboxing and jujitsu like on and off for a couple of years. And then when I went into uni, um, I just started seeing a lot more MMA, like watching a lot more MMA and watching people like Conor McGregor. He kind of blew the sport up into the next level. So just watching him kind of seeing him just kind of drew me into the sport, and then since then I just wanted to compete in it, and yeah.
Right. So that actually brings me to my next question. So when it comes to fighters who drew you to the sport, who do you think it was? I see Conor McGregor is one of them.
Yeah, yeah, he was it's not he's not really someone I really look up to now, but I acknowledge that he had a part of me. I acknowledge he had a part in me coming into the sport.
Right.
um the people I look up to now, it's just the guys at the gym most of the time. Um, yeah, I've drawn influences in my game from like a few other fighters over the years. Not necessarily people from the gym, but just some of the things that they do that interest me. I just try to implement it in my sparring and training.
Right. So, of course, when it comes to speaking of fighters from your gym, you've got one of their biggest fights coming up. I think tomorrow, Hooker versus I think Dan. No, my apologies. I think Dan's fighting on the 20th. Um,
Yeah, next week.
yeah, next
Next
week.
week.
Yeah, I got a bit mixed up with my dates. I'm sorry. So yeah, you've got Dan fighting next week. You've got Izzy getting his fight coming up soon against Jan, the soup fight. So what do you make
Yep.
of their fights that are coming up?
I think Chandler's kind of made for Dan. He has to close the distance quite. He has to close a distance where Dan would be quite comfortable with countering him when he's coming in. And I think that would be like the dynamic of the fight. As for Izzy and Yan, I think Izzy would be a bit too quick for Yan. He's not the Yan's not the quickest guy out there. Um, he's a strong, and he's got like this weird kickboxing game, but not weird, but like kind of awkward, unorthodox. But I don't think it's anything that Izzy hasn't seen, and he's a quick middleweight. I think he'll be even quicker at light heavyweight. So I think that speed difference would give Jan fits.
Right. So yeah, very interesting take there. So moving on. Of course, you're an amateur right now. Do
Yep.
you what are your plans when it comes to turning pro? What do you see the next few years of training and going into fights looking like for you?
I would like one more amateur fight, but if I can't get one, then I'll just go pro at bantamweight. Right now, I'm just fighting at featherweight, easier weight cut, and not getting paid. So why should I? I guess. um, I would like to fight the bantamweights in New Zealand, then move on to at the moment just because of the borders not being open, and if the opportunity comes, of course I'd take some fights outside of New Zealand. But um, yeah, so when I go pro, fight the bantamweights in New Zealand. When the borders open, fight the bantamweights in Australia and other parts of the world, I guess, and then get a few
Right.
wins and get the call up.
Right. So when it comes to developing, like, every fighter in the early interviews spoke about how, like, this is the ideal place I want to get to, this is the promotion, this is the place, this is the time. So in that whole ideal scenario for you, where eventually do you want to be, which promotion do you want to be heading to, and when do you see this happening? Because people like Izzy came out and said that, I wanted to be there in my 30s, and then he went there in their 30s. And people from city kickboxing have this insane ability to predict and absolutely make it there. So I want to get your take on this.
So UFC is a goal. I'm not sure. Well, the time frame would be within 3 or 4 years, I'd say. Um, there's, I guess, whatever comes up. I'm not much of a planner. I just uh, I just set some goals that I have in mind and then I work towards them.
Right.
Yeah, whatever comes up, then it will come up.
And best of luck to you
Um,
for it, brother.
yeah. So I guess I just want to make a name, make a name for myself, win some fights, and win. And I think that would speak for itself.
Right, and I look forward to seeing it. Is there any other fight or any other kickboxing match that's in the works at the moment?
I'm looking to fight on Shuriken in March 6th.
Right,
I'm still looking for a match at featherweight as an amateur, but nothing confirmed yet. So yeah, just waiting.
right. And best of luck if that fight does happen, and I'm sure you're going to be amazing in the fight. And on that note, I think that's all we have from me. So
Okay.
before we end, every time we give our guests an opportunity to end it with one final message. So of course, for those growing Lawrence Lui fans out there, any last words? The last few minutes, all you, brother. Go for it.
Uh, just put me on the spot. No, I didn't really have much on my mind. I'm yeah, just watch the space.
Well,
Sorry, not too
nah,
much.
no problem, mate. That's the only curveball I like throwing my guests whenever they're on. I don't like too many. And yeah, thanks for joining in, brother. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. This was Lawrence Lui. He's gonna be turning pro real soon. You better catch him because he's gonna be on the rise and he's gonna be on the rise fast. Thanks for joining in, Lawrence. Once again, really appreciate it. And that's what that was. We'll see you on the next one.